It's the old Doctor Who show, episode number 64, The Ultimate Foe, or the last part of Trial of a Time Lord. Your favorite on-screen space court with Richard Mull, Harry Stone. Oh, I'm sorry, that was Night Court. That was Night Court.
Go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine. You couldn't control my mind before, and you certainly can't control it now.
Would you like a jelly, baby?
The TARDIS, when working properly, is capable of many amazing things.
Reverse the polarity of the neutron flows, but the TARDIS should be free of the force field.
But the TARDIS is more than a machine, Stephen. It's like a person, you see.
The resulting reaction is Friday. Are you ready?
Welcome back to the old Doctor Who show, your classic tri-weekly Doctor Who review podcast. Every 3 weeks we get together. We talk about a classic episode of Doctor Who. That's code for the old stuff. I am your host, half of your host, 50% of your host. Well, we're not one host, we're two hosts. We're a binary system. I'm the salt, Dan is the pepper.
Hi, I'm Dan. I'm the
I
pepper.
forgot. You have to talk, right? It's not a.
I was wondering
I'm
if we were
hosting
doing
alone
like
today.
top half or bottom half, or are we doing like front half and back
Dan
half?
is the
I don't
bottom,
know.
and I'm
No,
the. No.
wait. This is gonna get weird.
It just got real hot in here. Dan,
also
how are
glad,
you?
I'm glad you reset what the premise of our show is at the top here, because I wasn't clear.
I wasn't. Sometimes I forget why I've made these choices. Dan, we're here to talk about the end of Colin Baker. Before we get to the end of Colin Baker, last show, if you remember, fans, clearly they remember because they write in their little dream journal at the end of our podcast. Oh, what did Eric mention this week? Well, I couldn't think of, I knew I had to say something and I couldn't think of it. And that was that I was on a podcast called Comics in Motion. Premise of that podcast is they talk about, there's like one of the hosts is a comics guy and the other host is a movies guy, and they tend to do sort of reviews and stuff about some of these superhero movies, because right now all movies are superhero movies. But I had done, they did like a mini episode where they interviewed me, and a good portion of that is talking about Doctor Who. So thought that was nice. And I just wanted to give a little shout out to them, and you can go to the Comics in Motion podcast and you can listen to their episodes, and if you want, you can listen to the one with me talking about Doctor Who.
Did they have you on because of
Gregory Suicide? Yeah, primarily it was me and Will Perkins, who's the artist on Gregory Suicide.
Awesome.
And just within our conversations, I mentioned this show, the old Doctor Who show with Dan Johnson, and that led to them. They are both from the UK, and neither like Doctor Who. Wow. So it was an interesting starting point for the American that loved Doctor Who, and the host that did not. But it was fun, because it was always good to talk about it. It's funny because I had to talk at length and explain what the Matrix was, which ties in nicely to the Ultimate Foe, and I'm sure I got it wrong. And when we get into the discussions of the Matrix today, I will say what I've always thought it was, versus what it actually is, and whatnot.
Okay. Well, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, so you got anything, Dan? You're away, right?
I am away. I'm up in Vermont. You're
hunting humans. You and the boyfriend every year like to go out to Vermont and just hunt people, right?
It's the most dangerous game. We bagged our limit this year.
How great would that be if that's really what you did on the side and you were just a people hunter? Nicest guy in the world. Loves Doctor Who. Totally cool. Except
great with animals.
Yeah,
but
he has
he's
his
a
own mini
murderous
purge.
monster.
Yeah, the purge is alive and well in Vermont.
We got to keep the population down.
Yeah, Vermont is awesome. I know you go there a lot. I used to go there, but I haven't been in a while, and I'm a fan of the state.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's a Bernie country up here, which is kind of nice. Just away, enjoying the sunshine and spending some time indoors watching this story.
Yeah, speaking of this story, this was a short one.
This was yes.
Neither Dan or I don't think were aware it was going to be a two-parter. With that in mind, because I feel like I just want to talk about it, let's hit the button.
Yeah, let's jump in.
Get us into the machine. It's called a TARDIS. We'll go forward in the future to the point that we review it. So,
all right, let me find the button.
So that's why Earth was renamed Ravolox. That sanctimonious gang of hypocrites were covering their tracks.
Exactly. It takes time, Doctor, but eventually you get there.
They put an ancient culture like the Earth to the sword for the sake of a few miserable, filthy scientific advances.
Big market for them, Doctor. So he said. Worth a lot of crumpets.
All my travellings throughout the universe, I have battled against evil, against power-mad conspirators. I should have stayed here. The oldest civilization. Decadent, degenerate, and rotten to the core. Power-mad conspirators, Daleks, Sontarans, Cybermen. They're still in the nursery compared to us. 10 million years of absolute power. That's what it takes to be really corrupt.
Take it easy, Doc.
Doctor, these unseemly outbursts...
Unseemly outbursts? If I hadn't visited Ravolox as I then thought of it, the High Council would have kept this outrage carefully buried, as presumably they have for several centuries.
This is the ultimate foe. This is the fourth and final part of Trial of a Time Lord series. This is from the 23rd season of a show called Doctor Who. It is directed by Chris Clow and written by two sets of people. So the first episode, part one, is written by Robert Holmes, and the second part is credited as being written by Pip and Jane Baker. This is the final countdown. No, this is the ultimate foe battle between the Doctor. He is on trial. It is the end. All of the evidence has been presented before him, and what will happen? Is the Matrix real, or has the Matrix been tampered with? We find out almost immediately the Matrix has been tampered with. It doesn't seem to affect the court proceedings at all. It's not a mistrial. We're just going to keep going with it. So the Doctor learns that the prosecutor in this case is actually himself from the future in a way, but it's more an amalgamation of his bad characteristics. And the two of them spend the remaining episode kind of walking around the Matrix and trying to figure out what's going on. So Dan, I think that covers it. Dan, what did you think of what was your verdict in the Trial of a Time Lord?
Out of order. I think I wrote you a text while I was watching it saying you're going to have to explain what the hell is going on. I'm glad it was only two parts because there was a lot going on here, and I know some of this has to do with the backstory behind how this story came together.
And we can talk a little bit about that. The fact that there are two writers. Unfortunately, Robert Holmes dies before he can finish.
Well, really, apparently there were three sets of writers.
Exactly.
So maybe that explains why some of it felt so disjointed, and the ending didn't quite match the setup to it. I also don't really know why it was two parts when I feel like there could have been more. Take one part from one of the previous stories and give us some time into this one, because there were a lot of ideas that they were trying to go for, and I don't feel like
were there a lot of ideas? Were there a lot of ideas? I don't feel like.
I think there were good ideas, but none of them were executed fully. So yeah, I think there were ideas. Okay. Like you mentioned, that the Valeyard was this amalgamation of all the darker characteristics of the Doctor, taken from the future between his 12th and 13th generations. Let's put a pin in that and come back. The fact that the Master's there and has infiltrated the Matrix. The fact that they're able to. There's just a door now out of nowhere.
Yeah,
there's no door there now. Okay, there was a lot. There were a lot of things happening. But
what would you say your review would be? You like it? Yeah, didn't like it? In the middle of the road?
I liked the acting. I liked some of the ideas in the story. I think I liked a lot of the production of it. The Master's Dark TARDIS, the location shots of old Victorian London when they're inside the Matrix, the stuff inside J.J. Abramov's, no, that's not. Was it J.J. Chambers?
J.J. Chambers. J.J. Saddlemeyer.
That's it. Inside his funhouse. I mean, some of the stuff was pretty cool, but it's the fact that things didn't quite come together and that they got wrapped up so seemingly hastily in the second half really let me down a lot. So very mixed kind of feelings about it. What about you?
I hated it. I thought it was horrible. I really did. Now, well, let's take a back up.
There were some good things.
Yeah, there were some good things. I will cover some of the good things.
Okay.
But let's back up and see if I sort of understand the whole thing that happened.
A running start at this.
Right. So the quote-unquote sleepers, who we never see in the entire trial of a Time Lord, but they're talked about often, steal secrets out of the Matrix.
Primarily, they're spoken about in one previous story and this story. Are they spoken about in other stories besides this one?
No, but they're a huge part of the thing. All right.
Of Mysterious Planet.
Let me get through this.
Yes, we jump back to Mysterious Planet.
Yes. So, starting over.
No, I'm going to interrupt you a lot.
There's these people called the Sleepers. They steal secrets out of the Matrix because they're able to copy a key at some point from one of the higher-ups, right? The Time Lord, the High Council of Time Lords, traces the stolen secrets to the planet Earth where the Sleepers are hiding it. Then they decide that they're going to kill the Sleepers by doing this super fireball thing or whatever. There's a word for it, and I can't remember the word for it. It's a name, and the Doctor's like, ugh. And that causes the Earth to leave its where it's supposed to be, and it goes to another part of the universe to cover, and they're going to cover up that anybody can actually get into the Matrix because people find out that people can get into the Matrix. Oh, God. The Doctor, in his journeys that we saw in the first part of this, what was it called? The
Mysterious Planet?
Waste of Our Time. Yes, the Mysterious Planet. He's onto it, so the High Council's like, we got to frame the Doctor. It's the only thing we can do is we got to cover all this up. So they make a deal with the Doctor's, an amalgamation of all of the Doctor's negative traits that formed into a person off screen, nobody knows how or why, that happened, as you said, right about now. I think we're in the part now where that
should be happening.
Yeah, I mean, the War Doctor sort of throws it a little bit off, but, somehow this person is around and cuts a deal with the Time Lords in the future or past, it doesn't matter. And then he's going to stop the Doctor by going to law school and becoming a prosecutor so that they could go through this entire trial so that they can execute him. May have been easier just to pay an assassin to kill the Doctor, but in any case, they're going to go through this whole law thing. Now, the Master figures all this stuff is going out because he's a genius, and he's like, I want to be the one to kill the Doctor. Right? That's my thing. I'm the famous master that somehow people in Gallifrey are not aware of. So I thought he was more popular than he was, but I mean, I think all villains are not as popular as they think they are. So he figures out that he's going to go into the Matrix so that he could talk to the court through a television, because that was the best use of his time. So he goes into the Matrix waits at the end and sort of reveals everything, and in order to save the Doctor, he reaches out through time to Blix, who we've met once, but he's the ultimate witness for this, and Mel, and brings them in to defend the Doctor and get him off, which doesn't work because they're going to go through the court anyway, even though it's clear that all of the evidence against the Doctor came from the Matrix, and within the first 5 minutes of this episode of part one of this two-parter is clearly the Matrix is fallible. The Master's literally on the screen saying anybody can get in here, and then the judge is like, yeah, but it's immaterial. It's like, that's not real. Like, where did you go to law school? So fake news. This whole thing is a sham. And then when it's in a long, painful series of exposition given to us from Blix. Is it Blinks or Blinks or
Glitz?
Glitz.
Yes.
After he explains in meticulous detail all of the stupid ways that this is all connected, he literally just, like I am doing, that's what he does. The Valeyard splits and runs into the Matrix, and the Doctor follows him, and then it's over. Right? I mean, that's basically the story, right? And so the Valeyard, again, is he's hoping to get more regenerations, right? Because we're really leaning into that 13 and you die business.
Yep.
So it's really the Doctor stealing from himself, which doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense because they're on the same continuum in a way. So if he removes his lives forward and gives them to himself in the future, how was he even made?
It feels pretty paradoxical.
Whatever, it doesn't matter. I mean, that part is the least, annoying part of this whole thing.
Oh, I kind of found like it was one of the more annoying parts, that this whole nemesis that he has, this ultimate foe, literally makes no sense. There is no way that you can explain this to me in a way that I'm going to say, oh, okay, I get it, because they didn't bother to do
well,
that.
I
You
would
can come up
say
with whatever
that
kind of fan
the way
theories
that this,
you want to.
Right. I will argue now for it and say that the way that this makes sense is it's all a meta commentary on writing Doctor Who. So there's all the idea factory or whatever it's called, is sort of, the BBC and all the bureaucracy around the BBC with the guys in the office and everything. And then there's the good Doctor and then the negative traits of the Doctor that are actually what's been killing the show that they've been introducing in, and all the death and stuff that we've seen in the previous seasons. And so that's sort of the battle about who is actually the Doctor. Is it this negative guy or is it the positive guy? And because it seems like Robert Holmes was way into all that bureaucracy stuff. Like we've seen those themes in his other storylines that he did. But he
was commenting on it as he was going along.
Yeah, I personally prefer. I thought the second half was stronger than the first half. So that's the Pippin and Jane part. But the reason why I would not say was not great, I liked it more than the first part, but it wasn't great, was because I felt it leaned too into the slapsticky, goofy, almost like they weren't. I mean, they only had 3 days to write this thing, so I totally get it. But
right,
it was almost like they were making fun of the thing that they were like. There's some parts in it that were just super goofy and like winky and tongue in cheek, like. You know what I mean? That was my.
Well, I mean, yeah, sure. Like Mel getting tripped by the.
Yes, and then they look down at that was exactly one of the things, because she gets tripped the first time, and the second time he goes to put it out, and she's like, and then they pop a Mento, and she's on her way. I don't know, man.
I mean, there were some of the things I liked about it were the imagery of it. There's some surreal moments that I thought worked particularly well. For example, the Doctor going into the waiting room backing up. Actually, when we get into what was it actually called? It wasn't the Fun Factory, was it? It can't have been called the Fun Factory.
No, it's a lot like a comic book called Warlock by Jim Starlin.
Oh,
it's a lot like that, where, and this is, I'm going to say spoilers, so skip ahead a minute, but in the comic, Warlock fights himself, his evil alter ego, like all the bad parts about him. That's the ultimate foe, and it's revealed. And there's a whole thing with an idea factory, and it's all about, there's characters that are supposed to be Stan Lee and John Romita, who, and it's all like, these are the corporate guys, and it's a lot of the same stuff. We're back from the spoiler, so I hope it didn't spoil a 70s comic book.
Right. So this is the Fantasy Factory, which you the whole point of that being, a stand-in for the BBC. I wasn't actually looking at this for meta story at all, but that works pretty well.
It's like the place that cranks out these Doctor Who stories. It's the Fantasy Factory,
and the whole thing is full of bureaucracy. That's the whole idea going into it, and that the Valeyard wants to kill the Doctor, but he wants to humiliate him first. Which this all kind of points to the same thing that you're saying, that Robert Holmes is making this meta commentary. That's actually very interesting. I like that. But the imagery of going into this Fantasy Factory, before that inside the Matrix, the children singing the off-kilter nursery rhymes in the background, getting grabbed by hands coming out of a rain barrel. There's a lot of this kind of nightmare imagery that I actually really enjoyed.
Yeah,
it doesn't go anywhere. There's not a whole lot of point to it other than just like, oh, that's creepy. But these things taken on their own terms worked as moments throughout. It just didn't cohere into a larger idea, I don't think.
Individually, I thought there was a lot of cool stuff. I liked all of the Valeyard popping in all different places, and when they were in the desert sort of area.
The beach. They were on the beach in the waiting area. I was going to say that.
That stuff was cool.
The hands reaching up and pulling the Doctor under, I thought was pretty effective, and it also had a nice callback in imagery to The Assassin.
Yeah,
which is the other story about. Yeah, Deadly Assassin was a story, containing the Matrix in that one. So, that actually worked pretty well. then that's the cliffhanger that ends the first part that Robert Holmes had written, and then we pop into the second part. Starts with the Pip and
Jane.
Pip and
Jane.
Jeez.
PB&J.
PB&J. And you have Glitz
Baker,
coming in and running into.
PBJB.
That's very nice. No, that's cool. So you have that rescue of the Doctor with Glitz that goes awry, and the Doctor actually kind of coming back up out of the ground, and you have the value. There's just interesting moments that look really cool, but again, I don't think it really went anywhere.
No, and we should talk a little bit about the writing. So, as we said, Robert Holmes was supposed to write these 2 parts. Mm-hmm. He was sick, and so he dies after writing the first part. And again, Eric Seward's the script editor on the first part, so how much of that got rewritten from Eric on top? We don't know really how much of the first part was pure Robert Holmes and how much was rewritten. Then he dies. Eric Seward takes Robert Holmes' outline for the second part and then writes a script based on it. At the end of that story, the Doctor and the evil Doctor, Valeyard, were supposed to fight and then fall into the abyss, and it was going to be a big cliffhanger.
Right.
And Jonathan Taylor Thomas didn't want to do that because he thought it was going to doom the show, which the show was already doomed. But I don't even understand that logic, because a cliffhanger you would be more likely to get another season to resolve it than just to have an ending where you can easily end the show.
Right. I don't know what his real reasoning. The reasoning that I've read about this, and I've read it on the Wikia site. I've read it in a couple other places. It doesn't really. I don't know what his thinking was there at all, because it really does feel like you'd want something much more dramatic to get people to try to save the show, because it was in a lot of trouble at this point.
Yeah.
So the whole, like we said, this whole season was discussing the fact that the Doctor is on trial, and that was about the show itself. So.
Right.
I don't know
why
he didn't like that ending.
That
actually sounds like a cool
They
ending.
fight over the ending. That's sort of the last straw for Eric Seward or Soward or however you pronounce his name. He leaves, right? And then for legal reasons, they can't touch that script now. Now, I don't know if they could touch Robert Holmes' outline or if Eric was the only one with Robert Holmes' outline. But in any case, Pip and Jane are brought in and told, you have to end this. You're not allowed. They can't show them the script, the Eric script at all.
They can only see what was written for the first half.
Yeah, they can only see the first half. Now, why they can't see the outline that was supposedly created for the second half, I don't know. But so they have 3 days to sort of connect the dots, and I thought they did a really good job of connecting the dots.
Sure.
And I thought the second part was so much better than the first part, because the first part was dragged down for me so bad by that exposition in the beginning, and so much talking, and so many people just going back into the courtroom, and the shots are boring, and it's literally just 3 people standing and talking for 10 minutes.
But, there was a lot.
Yeah, so that was sort of the script drama, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. To say that they had 3 days and very little information to go on to wrap this up was good, but I mean, they still left with a cliffhanger at the end when. We think the Valeyard's killed, but he appears to be the keeper of the Matrix instead. Okay, that's fine, but it's not all that compelling, really.
No, it's not that compelling. And I don't know. I really liked the Valeyard character once it was revealed that it is the evil future Doctor. I thought he was much more interesting than the annoying prosecutor.
Well,
but in a better story, it would have worked. This wasn't. But yeah.
Didn't you think all along though that obviously the Valeyard had something to do with it? Like it was.
Oh, it was clear. I mean, you knew he was
the beginning.
You knew he was a villain, but I didn't know that he was the Doctor.
Of course, yeah. So it may have been interesting to see how they could have made him into a different type of villain. Again, the whole thing of like taking this amalgamation of the dark traits of the Doctor and putting him into the a later incarnation. I just have real problems with it. It just doesn't seem to make any sense to me why they would do that. And when when you have the Master coming back into the story, that really is the Master's jam. He's going to be the anti-Doctor, frenemy in a way. I hate that word. I'm sorry I said it. But they have known each other forever, and they were friends, and they share a lot of the same background, so they can kind of think alike, and all this stuff they've already set up, and now they've just done that as a separate character. The fact that the Master was here to stop the Valeyard because he's like, no, that's what I do. I'm the one that gets to kill the Doctor, was at least an interesting motivation for it, and that the Valeyard, if he had survived and killed the Doctor, would have been a more formidable foe for the Master was kind of interesting. But to have all of them together in one story,
the Master
felt
had
really
no
bloaty.
Right. I was even more
bad use of
off-put when I saw the Master appear at all. And I was like, oh, God.
It would have been a lot better had he not been there.
And he serves no real purpose other than we should probably talk about, to explain that somehow Perry is now married to the Flash Gordon dude.
Yes.
Why? She doesn't go home. She's not going to see her parents. She's going to marry a guy she just met once, and now she's a queen.
King
and
Ukranos. I mean, that was just
right. And also, I did read that is also an addition from John Nathan Turner, who again, there's probably a lot of feedback that he's getting that the story's too dark, or the show's too dark, and that's why he doesn't want to do the ending where they're fighting and falling into the abyss, and that's why he's retconning Perry's death, and now she's not dead. So I think in his head, he's trying to save the show by making it not as violent.
But the rest of the story still has a lot. Is a very dark story throughout. The fact that the Time Lords are a completely corrupt institution.
The corrupt Time Lords that aren't on screen at all.
Right. The High Council.
All the stuff that happens off screen.
And that all of Gallifrey is watching these proceedings, and they are in a revolt against the High Council, and that the Masters
that was so stupid. Wasn't that so stupid?
It really just felt.
You set up these High Council corruption, and which is great, but you never see them.
No.
And their whole arc is all done through dialogue from the Master saying they're bad. Now I've told the people. Now the people are revolting. Now I'm in charge. It's how did you get there? You're still on the screen. You're stuck in the Matrix, which we should probably talk about. What is the Matrix? Because it was always sort of sold as this collection of Time Lord knowledge, right?
Right. Well, yes, but it was the collection of Time Lord knowledge through Time Lord's memories. So it's the recording of all of Time Lord's memories.
Okay.
As a repository.
In any case, when we first see it in The Deadly Assassin, it is like a micro-universe that the Master in that storyline, when he was all burned and trying to get a new regeneration, was controlling and manipulating. And the Doctor was Tom Baker was making his way through there, and he was going, avoiding all these pitfalls. It was like the plane and, the clown and all that weird stuff.
Yeah.
That kind of makes sense. In this one, it makes no sense because the Valeyard runs into the Matrix, again, a storage of information that's also a micro-universe reality.
Right.
How is the Valeyard controlling everything? He's laughing at the Doctor. He literally just went in there, and the Doctor followed him, and then all of a sudden, it's the Valeyard's world to control. Why?
Well,
the Master's been hanging out there the whole time. He could have just taken control and gotten rid of the Valeyard or did whatever. It was just well, what is this place? And why is the Valeyard able to completely control it?
Well, I mean, if we're taking it as a possibility that someone from outside the Matrix can come in and shape its reality for other people to come in, which we saw in The Deadly Assassin. So the Master was able to control the Matrix, or at least that person's perception of the Matrix when they came in. Okay. But the Valeyard just ran in at that point, but he also had gone in before to manipulate the memories. So who knows how long he's actually been interacting with the Matrix. He could have been doing this for centuries, messing with it and setting all of this up.
Yeah, he could have been doing it, or did the High Council do it? Because they're the ones with the keys, too. You don't necessarily know that the Valeyard was the one that was manipulating the memories. Although I'll take it that he was.
I thought it was. I thought it was.
Let's assume that he was. But the Master's hanging out in there, too.
Sure.
And it just doesn't
So the Master had some limited control. He had some limited control over what was going on in the Matrix. He was able to make his TARDIS materialize in there to get them out, which,
no, it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense, but
it has no defined laws or rules. So it's hard to even understand what the stakes are.
That's true.
You know, and then for some reason it looks like Victorian London, because it was going to be a Jack the Ripper thing, which never comes out. It goes from Victorian London to the Idea Factory part of it.
Fantasy Factory, for those of you screaming
and then,
at us.
And again, to talk about the meta stuff, like quills, right? The writers are throwing quills to explode. You know, it's just like, come on, it's a little on the nose.
A little on the nose for you. I was just sitting back and just trying to understand what was happening in the actual main story, and you're talking about the meta narrative. So that's good.
There, but I was like, no, God, I think throwing quills now.
No, I think you're absolutely right. As soon as you pointed that out to me, that was the first thing that popped in my head, was the fact that they were fighting with quills. So no, I think you're dead on. I just wasn't looking at it through that lens at all. And I think actually the story, at least the Holmes part of the story, is a lot better for that meta narrative in terms of how things hold together. Whether or not it makes a good Doctor Who story, that's debatable. You're right, though. I think that is one of the things that bothers me so much, is that there's no rules and defined parameters for any of this. The fact that, like you said, with the Matrix, we don't really know what the rules are there at all, and that's okay. But you can't set any expectations. You can't understand what like you said, what the stakes are. We don't. The whole thing with the Valyard just coming out of the blue like this. Oh, you can just create new Time Lords now and just shove them into their timelines. And the fact that he's gonna then go back and get 7 more generations from the Sixth Doctor for killing him. It just doesn't make any sense. And then the Master going and pulling Mel and Glitz out of time and dropping them in, which of all the people that the Doctor has met, these are the 2 that are going to be the ones to save him. It makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, I was
hoping,
in terms
of story.
Right, I was hoping, if anything, the Matrix just should be something that nobody controls, because it's all, knowledge and everything, and therefore when you go in, it's the Matrix itself that's messing with you. And maybe that's the case.
That'd be interesting. No, I don't think it was.
You hear like,
because that Fantasy Factory was all the Valyard doing.
Well, you hear the Valyard laughing to in the sky when he first enters the thing, as if he's in control. But maybe that's just his own fear, as he fears himself the most. I don't know.
You're trying to make the story better than it actually is.
Mold it into something.
Yeah.
But it was just very disappointing all around. And also watching this, we had asked, hey, did Colin Baker know? And people had said, of course he didn't. And obviously it's obvious he didn't know that this was his last story, because this ends as if it's going to go on with Colin Baker after it.
And Mel.
There's no death. I was expecting, okay, is there going to be a death of Colin Baker and a regeneration at the end? Because we know this is the last, and that does not happen.
Right. I mean, that was actually, as the Doctor's being carted off, literally on a cart, for his execution after admitting in the fake courtroom that he, sacrificing himself. Is this going to be the actual regeneration at that point? And is that going to be somehow the way that he stops the Valyard? And blah, blah, blah. Nope, not at all. In fact, the Doctor ends, his last words are carrot juice, which is just, for a character that I
that's how he goes out on carrot juice.
I detested this Doctor from the beginning, tolerated him through the middle, and then started to actually like him, as we've mentioned in the past few stories, particularly when he started warming to his companions, to Perry particularly. Now I feel really let down by that ending for him. That has to end like that, and I'm sure for him as well.
Yeah, although it's a bad ending for him. It's a bad ending for Perry. It's just a bad.
It's a horrible ending for Perry. I felt really bad about that. But he was offered. This is the little reading that I did. He was offered the chance to return at the beginning of the next season to do his regeneration sequence, but declined to do it. So I have a feeling it must have been really bad mojo or bad blood between them over that. Though there is a big finished story from 2015 where we do get a regeneration there for him.
Right. I had read that too. I wish I hadn't, because then I would have went into the next story, Time in the Ronnie, thinking it would be Colin Baker transferring. So I wonder what that's going to be like, though. Is that literally a double? that dies? Does it start with an explosion and then the new Doctor?
Do we even see any regeneration at all, or is that taken as read or done off screen?
Oh, you think it'll just be the other Doctor,
idea.
And then they'll keep having to say, "Doctor, you're the Doctor," so that the audience
because I don't know. This is completely speculation because, like you were saying, there's a lot of criticism of the show. It got very dark. There's so many deaths. This Doctor wasn't particularly liked. The ratings were dropping, and from what some of our listeners have said. The next, at least the beginning, I don't know of how long it goes, but with Sylvester McCoy kind of is more along the children's show side of it, so it gets much lighter. I'm kind of dreading
it wasn't that
going
good.
to the next Doctor.
And like
I'm
talking,
really kind of dreading it at this point.
Right, talking about, I'm actually looking forward to the next Doctor very much so, because I know a lot of people that like him the most. So
good. I'm happy to. I only know
to see how that goes.
Yeah, like we've said before, we try to go into these as fresh as possible. So I don't really know anything about this next Doctor other than what some of you listeners have kind of written in. So I'm apprehensive. I hope it's going to be good. At least I hope it starts for this Doctor better than Colin Baker's Doctor started off, with an attempted murder.
Now,
for example,
we get a little bit more of Mel in this.
Yeah,
I found her less likable than I did the previous time, and I think she had less. I was going to say she has less to do. She sort of exists in a good portion of it as an apparition or a fake Mel, because the Doctor is led back into the trial. I actually liked that part. So when
I love the reveal of the trial,
when it pulled back and you saw them watching themselves, and it was like, now we're really getting meta. But
I did enjoy that.
That was cool. I thought that was good, but she didn't really have much. And again, we've only been with her for one story, 4 episodes or 4 parts of the previous story, and that's it.
Right.
So it's hard to have much of a take on who she really is. But it was like, I don't know, there was just so much of this that was just kind of dumb, I think.
It just didn't feel it felt thrown together and not really thought out. And I wonder,
and it makes sense in the context of how it was put together too.
That's right. Like you said before, how much of this first part was rewritten after Holmes' death in preparation for Saward writing the second part. But then I actually wonder, was it then rewritten again? I guess there really couldn't have been much time, but by whoever took over for him to kind of put these things back together. It just felt like
I think it was rewritten.
It feels like there were a lot of hands in it, and no one really had a clear idea of what they wanted to do with some of these ideas, and they just kind of threw them out there without any sort of trying to or a real effort to make them logical. And it even got worse, though. I mean, there's certain parts towards the end in the second half. When the Valeyard and the Doctor are fighting inside the Matrix, inside the Fantasy Factory, when the Doctor discovers the machine that the Valeyard had built that is going to send basically like feedback through the TV into the courtroom and kill everyone that's there, it just ends up being a whole lot of incomprehensible technobabble that I had to turn the captioning on because I'm like, what the hell are they saying? And once I read what they were saying, I still said, what the hell are they saying? Because it doesn't make any sense. When Glitz goes back into the Matrix, goes into the Fantasy Factory to find the tapes, the recordings of all of the Matrix, finds a copy, brings it out, takes it back to the Master. There's a whole set of like semi-double crosses that aren't really complete, and who knows whose allegiance
Glitz
goes
finds
where.
The secrets, right? There's a copy of the secrets, or maybe the original secrets removed, and he's sort of trying to get away with it, and the Master's like, "Oh, no, you come
and that's even
with
worse.
me."
We see that in Mysterious Planet, Glitz gets away with those recordings from the sleepers, and we don't really know what that is at that time. It's like, what is that thing? And it's a cliffhanger, and we find out in one sentence, like, oh, that was just a fake. So that's why he's going back in to find him again. And what happens? Those are a fake as well. They're a booby trap that they put it into the TARDIS.
Yeah, I can't remember. So the first ones were fake. I can't even remember how that played out.
Yeah. He gets away with those at the end of Mysterious Planet, and then they just mention in this huge morass of exposition that those were not real. They were a fake copy. So then when he goes back into the Fantasy Factory and finds this other recording of it, brings it back to the Master. Master puts it into his console, and they get thrown up against the wall into some sort of stasis something or other, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's because that was also a fake. It's like they just recycled the same idea for the same character again.
Well, this particular... compared to previous stories, and I think the last stories had a number of twists and turns that were all earned.
Yes.
None of this stuff is earned. It's like even the Doctor, Valeyard being the Doctor, we didn't build up to that. It was just sort of thrown at us. The stuff about the secrets and they were fake, and now we're going to go get the secrets again. All just sort of written little twists and turns that are just sort of thrown in just to move things along, but not earned.
But not even really.
There's no payoff.
Moving things along. I would actually say not quite moving it along. They were more detours than they were anything to actually propel the story. They were just like nice, not even nice, just like little meaningless flourishes.
Well, they're
like,
little manufactured pieces of drama. To have something to do.
Exactly, and it was only a two-parter. Like they're. So I guess I'm arguing like, both for more and less of the story.
Sticking with the meta nature of the whole thing, I did like how the Doctor, when he becomes more evil, is sending negative vibes out of the TV screens and destroying the audience, which is basically what the evil Doctor's plan was. Because we are the audience watching the screen, Dan.
We are the dark reflection.
We are the dark elves of Gondor. Wait. No. So yeah, I don't know. Do you have anything else to say about the charges of genocide? He was found innocent of the charge of genocide, right? Because eventually he's found innocent. But how does he get around that charge?
So he gets around the charge because
that's the only thing he actually did. He did kill all the Vervoids.
He did kill them all. Yes, he did. And the Master was bringing back Glitz and Mel in order to be character witnesses to show that, yes, he may have done it, but he did it for a good purpose. But that was clear in the story we saw in the Terror of the Vervoids, that he had to do it in order to save all of humanity, because if they went to Earth, they would have taken over, da-da-da-da.
Right.
So it was clear from that story that he wasn't doing
genocide.
Sure. But they didn't change it. They didn't say, "Oh no, that didn't actually happen," or he saved whatever. There was nothing to mitigate it any more than it already was.
No, it was dumb. I mean, we saw the fake trial where he is convicted for that very reason.
Exactly.
They ask Mel, and she's like, "He did kill them," and then all of a sudden he's going to jail on a wagon. To get taken to his execution. But he was aware of it the whole time, so haha, joke's on you.
Right. He just wanted to get to see the Valeyard.
Did they did tell the Doctor that Perry is alive at the end?
Yes.
Right? So there's that
the Doctor,
scene.
the Master reveals it earlier, but then later, and then you see that quick flash of Perry with her hand on Kranos' hand on her shoulder.
Because when the Master reveals it, the Doctor's not in the room, right? So I think at the end, when they offer him the job of the presidency again.
Yes.
Because he's on trial. That's the worst, though. The whole trial thing is so annoying. The fact that the Doctor's like, this trial has to end because the prosecutor is me. And it's like, that's the basis. You could have ended it because the freaking Master is in the Matrix.
Right.
All the
evidence against you.
No good.
Right.
Just do another trial.
No. We don't need to do that again.
It's all fine. It's all fine.
So then I guess there's a little bit of additional strangeness at the end that the Doctor goes off with Mel, who is Mel from a different timeline. Like, he hasn't actually met her yet.
Is that what's happening? He hadn't met her, right?
Mel's a paradox. Because in the courtroom timeline, he shows Terror of the Vervoids, which is him and Mel in the future. In the present, if we say, in the Doctor's present, when he's in trial, he hasn't met Mel yet. Now the Master brings Mel from the future, apparently, because she knows the Doctor. So from the future into the current timeline, so into the past, brings Glitz from either the current time or the past into the present. I'm assuming current timeline.
Yeah, you're right.
But then he's going to leave with Mel, who's from the future. Apparently, in a novelization, the next story, the Doctor drops off Mel in her right timeline so that he can meet her again. Mel. And then actually, we'll meet her in the proper order later.
The younger old Mel. All right, I didn't even pick up on that, but that totally makes sense that would
right.
be
And it's
impossible.
so I don't know. Like I don't even know what the next story. Who's the companion? Do we pick up with?
I think it's going to be Mel, and no one's going to care because I don't think that's an issue.
No, I don't think anyone's going to care. I literally don't think anyone's going to care either. It's just like on top of all the other weird things that are nonsense, there's this nonsense. It's just kind of galling.
Dumb.
I mean, they could have just said, "I'm going to drop you off in your time." I don't know. There was just no. It felt so rushed and no thought to it. And I know that this story actually, when it was shot, was way over length.
Yeah, the second part is long, and they couldn't cut it down.
So they were able actually to extend it by 5 minutes, which was still not enough time to make sense of all of this rat's nest. So.
And then I guess.
But overall, I loved it.
No, I am surprised about the Master. And we mentioned it. I just want to bring it up again. That nobody knows who he is.
I know that's of the notes. Besides my notes of what the hell is going on, that was one that no one had heard of. This main adversary, renegade, Time Lord. They hadn't heard of him. These high. Not I know they're not the High Council. These Grand Inquisitors don't know anything about the Master.
He doesn't have a rap sheet of some kind.
You would think that all the trouble that he's caused, and I mean. I know we've already talked about this, but it just bothers me so much, just going back to Mysterious Planet, that their whole plan was to move the Earth and the stars around it out of the way so that if anyone went to look for these astronauts from Andromeda that stole information with the Matrix, they wouldn't find them there when they knew where they were and could have just killed them. They could have just killed them.
Well, didn't they try to kill them?
No, they were just
the whole.
No, they were just moving the planet out of the way so no one would find them, and then they were asleep because they were just in stasis because they put themselves in. It was
this is the way I read it or listened to it. They did try to kill them with this blast, but
it wasn't. No, the blast was a side
sleepers had
effect.
hidden in their own bunkers, so they weren't killed by it, and the result of this thing was this firestorm that caused the Earth to move. That's what I thought.
Wait,
happened. They intended to kill him with the laser blast or whatever it's called.
What laser blast?
There's a name for it. The
magnetron.
The magnetron.
The magnetron was the thing that actually moved the planet.
But wasn't it intended to kill the sleepers? But they didn't realize the sleepers had hidden themselves in bunkers.
Not from what I remember, and not from what the reading that I've looked at from other people's. Because I was trying to get some understanding of what the fuck was going on here. No, it seemed like the fireball on the planet Earth was a side effect of the magnetron, and the whole plan was just to get them out of the way and hide them.
Okay, well that makes sense.
Which I think is crazy stupid. I think your explanation that they tried to kill them and couldn't makes a lot more sense. Yeah. I wish that was the case, but I don't know that it is.
Yeah, I will accept that you are correct because at least your thing to me makes a little bit more sense if the whole point of the magnetron is to move large objects like a planet.
It moved planet.
But I thought that they said, but they didn't realize that they were hiding in their bunkers.
Maybe.
So I was like,
I don't
whatever.
know.
Just send someone there and get the plans back.
Just fucking kill them. Just kill them.
You're killing the doctor. It's not like murder is not something they do.
Yeah, but they have to kill the doctor by some crazy circuitous route that makes absolutely no sense when they could have just murdered him.
Oh, it's so dumb. This is why they all die. The Time Lords. They deserve it.
But do they? Okay, so that all happened.
Dumb.
Yep.
Yeah,
dumb. Yep. I mean, yeah. Again, it had its moments.
One other thing that I missed, and maybe I was just angry. Do they move the Earth back at the end of this? Or is the Earth still not where it's supposed to be?
I don't... It obviously goes back to where it belongs because people can find it again in later stories, but I don't remember them ever saying that it goes back to the right place.
Okay.
So that's weird. That's weird.
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't know for sure. All right.
I'm sure somebody's moving the Earth back.
Someone will take care of it. Okay, so that's all of that. I think what was so as I was doing some of this reading.
Oh wait, one more thing I want to add.
Go for it.
One more thing.
I'm not done either. So
when I saw the Master, the first thing I thought of is like, you always complain that the Daleks are overused in the new series over and over and over, especially some of the later years with Stephen Moffat. I feel like the Master is the Daleks of the classic series. It's like maybe just the stories we're picking, but it seems like there's definitely an over-reliance on throwing him in, even if he doesn't have anything to do with it. He's a great actor, and I like him as a person. I'm not sick of him or anything, but in a way, I'm sick of how he's being used. It is a crutch.
That's what I felt about the Daleks. I don't have a problem with the Daleks per se, but the fact that they are a crutch through a lot of the beginnings, at least, of the new series. Yeah, I mean, I guess there was the thing where the Master was coming back every year, and it was just a regular thing that the Master would be back every year, and it was just a regular thing. This is the last that happens for a while. So, yeah, it ended up just being like, oh, well, we'll fit him in, and he's going to be the thing that fills out how we can make this whole thing cohere. But
yeah, I mean,
I agree.
The Doctor fighting himself is interesting. You don't need the Doctor fighting himself and also the Master's there.
Right.
Or use the Master throughout all of the parts where you think he's the villain, and it's like, oh, no, it's not the Master, it's yourself or whatever.
Right.
Something, it just seems like, why is he only in these 2 episodes, and to what end?
Yeah, for no good reason. It really felt pointless. I was going to say, so as I was reading more about this Valyard, there was a rumor, apparently, that I missed this, that coincides with the fact that this is between the 12th and the 13th Doctor, that this past Christmas, the story that we got from New Who, Twice Upon a Time, there was a rumor that the Valyard was actually going to make an appearance in that.
Oh, really? That would have been cool.
Apparently someone on one of the big Doctor Who message boards, Gallifrey Base, saw that Mark Gatiss, who ends up playing the role of Leftwich Stewart, that the character's name was given as Averlady, which is an anagram of Valyard, which would have been actually really interesting. Now, I don't know if the mistake was that was never the name given to the character, or that name was given as a red herring because they wanted to save the surprise of who he was, although he could have just been credited as the captain and you wouldn't have known anyway. So it was a really interesting thing, and that would have been amazing if they had reintroduced the Valyard at the time when the Valyard was supposed to have been created. Well, that would have been actually really nice symmetry to do that. So, even though that I have a whole problem with the fact that he was even created at all and that he could fit between 2 regenerations doesn't make any sense, etc.
Yeah, and we don't really know how he was created.
Nothing.
And by whom. And does this happen? He's an amalgamation, again, of all of the Doctor's negative things. And that's why the Master's actually like, this is the guy I don't want to deal with, because he's as good as you, except he has no empathy, and he's just
no virtues.
He's just a bad dude.
Well,
what's the current Doctor, though, number-wise?
Capaldi's 12.
Okay, so this is
not counting. No one counts the War Doctor as one of the numbered regenerations. So yes, he technically the 13th regeneration, but he is the 12th Doctor.
Okay, so we still could see somehow the Valyard in the new series, even though Jodie Whittaker would be after that. The Valyard would have been created.
Which, I mean, there's still a way to do that because the Valyard obviously is still left here. He could exist, and she could have to deal with him as the thing, that byproduct between her and Capaldi. It would be very interesting. And I'm assuming that since the writers at BBC are listening to us right now, they're scribbling down story notes. I think that would be an interesting
villain to have in the new series for the Doctor to fight an evil version of the Doctor.
Right.
And I assume the evil version of the Doctor will have some kind of soul patch or an eye patch or something. It would have to be an eye patch, we know the difference, and it should be played by David Hasselhoff. Yeah.
Like Hasselhoff.
What if it's just Jodie Whittaker, but with a soul patch? Like, it's the same actress has to play both roles.
She has a long mustache that she twirls. I think it'd be great. Yeah, it'd be really good.
We're available if you want us to consult or write on this project.
We're just going to write anyway and send it in.
So what else you got? I think I'm out.
Else. That was enough of that. So, end of as an unceremonious end to the Colin Baker era, which kind of mirrors the unceremonious reveal of Colin Baker as he tried to murder everyone. So that kind of stinks. I wish he had gotten a better send off, but maybe I'll go and I checked out the Big Finish story for this. It is $30 for a digital download.
Now,
of
is the Big Finish story of all the trial? Like, it's a more elaborate version of the trial?
It is. No, it is. It's. I think it's called The Last Adventure, and it's 4 stories with Colin Baker picking up right after this and leading into the regeneration. Gotcha. So it's something I definitely want to hear once. I don't want to buy it for $30 so I can listen to it once. Anyway, So I'd be very interested in that. Maybe at some point, if I see a sale, I'll figure that, because I would like to see what the regeneration would have been like.
And I'm wondering if there's a lot of Valyard tales, either in prose or
like DuckTales.
Otherwise, like DuckTales.
Yeah.
Life is a mystery. Is that what it is?
I think so.
Whatever.
Everyone
matter.
Must stand alone. No, that's Madonna.
That's better. Now
so
that's
what
the
we,
outro song. But like where people talk about how the Valyard was created. Like, how did that happen?
Oh, right.
Have they already dealt with that in prose or novels or novels? Yeah, that was a good one, Eric. Or audio books or plays or local theater,
poetry
or dinner theater.
Theater. The Valyard Dinner Theater. Yeah, I would be interested to see if they could actually figure any of that out for us.
Dear listener, please let us know.
Then in the modern Who, they brought back this idea of the Valyard, but with the Dream Lord, Dream Doctor, Dream Lord, what do they call him? In the episode of Amy's Choice. And that was supposed to be all of the negative parts of the Doctor materialized in this dream state. So they've done this again, but that's really annoying.
Yeah, it was dumb.
Now I'm really kind of upset about this.
And it's upsetting too.
Before.
Robert Holmes is one of the best classic Doctor Who writers, and it's a shame that this is his last project.
Well, that he wasn't able to finish it.
He wasn't able to finish it.
Particularly
absolutely.
poignant.
But
yeah.
it's a shame. It's just sad.
Yeah.
And to have him go out on a note like this.
I'm actually going back. I'm looking back at the scripts that he wrote that were produced, and I mean, yeah, these were some really great ones. I mean, some were better than others, but yeah, there's some really great ideas in here. It's just incredible.
Spearhead from Space,
Time Warrior,
classic.
Ark in Space is fantastic.
Terror
Deadly
the
Assassin,
Autons, Carnival of Monsters.
Let's just name them all.
Warrior,
Power
Ark in
Kroll,
Space,
Kiz Andronavi, the Two Doctors, Sunmakers. I mean, these are great.
Sunmakers, Rifles Operation, Power of Kroll, Caves of Androzani, Dan.
I know. Ththese were all pretty good.
Good day, sir. So anyway, yeah.
Anyway, that's too bad. All right, so Eric, do we have anything we want to talk about? Yeah, go for it.
So I will read off some feedback. So this is what you, our listeners, have thought of not only this episode, but some overall stuff about Colin Baker.
Yeah.
Andrew Roberton, he had written that it was not really his fault, his being Colin Baker, as the BBC was in chaos, so everyone dislikes his Doctor. So I kind of would agree with that. It was not a good time to be the Doctor, and Colin Baker didn't really always have the best stuff to work with. Alistair, I can't get your last name right, so I'm just going to say M. He did the best he could do with some poor material and a truly awful costume. So not a fan of the multi-Technicolor Dreamcoat that he was rocking.
Can we mention this real quick? That the Doctor can be put into a catatonic state if you flash colored lights in his eyes?
Oh, God, I forgot about that. I forgot about all of that.
Stupid is that?
What was the point of any of that?
Stupid is that? God, that made me angry.
The master was like, come over here in this other room. I want to show you something. And then it's like the lights are flashing, and then the Doctor is just a zombie.
He says it causes him to turn his mind off.
Dumb.
So I thought, okay, interesting. It puts him into like an epileptic fit and he passes out so he can do something. No, it makes him completely suggestible and uses the hypnosis on him, which is the Master's thing anyway, right. But like that's just a thing that happens to Time Lords is if you flash too much light at them and play weird sounds.
And nothing comes of that. The Doctor is a zombie and then sees Mel, or the not right Mel, and then follows her and does it. Now, at that point, that whole trial thing, did the Valyard do that, or did the Master do that?
I think the Valyard did it.
I would think it would be the Valyard too, but there is an argument I guess you could make that it was the Master, because the Master is also trying to put them together. Because he's kind of got two things that he's saying. He's protecting the Doctor because he's afraid of the Valyard, but he's also saying have them attack each other and I'll pick up what's left.
Right.
Too, as well. So
he's trying to have
his motivation is not entirely
whatever the
clear.
Result is, as long as the Valyard's not in there, he wins. Yeah. So
all right.
Throws
we have one more piece of feedback from the Facebook page. So this is from Jerry Cassidy, who said, "Trial of a Time Lord, the regeneration. I was disappointed with. And then a sad face icon came after that to really, he was not a fan. So and I agree. I mean, it was not a good run.
I would love to have had a real send-off instead of carrot juice at the end for him. So that was all from the Facebook page.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if I missed your Facebook comment, I apologize, but that is, I believe, all that we had.
Yeah, I forgot to put out a note. I usually try to do this a day ahead on Twitter to let you guys know that what we're reviewing, or to remind you that we're reviewing it and get your feedback. So I'm sorry I did that late, but we did get a note from Christos Paddock that said about this story particularly that discontinuity abounds, a blah appearance by the Master, and Colin Baker is finally over. Yeah, I mean, like you guys have heard throughout this, not a huge fan of Colin Baker, especially at the beginning, but I really like what he did with the Sixth Doctor towards the end, as he actually became more of a relatable character. So yeah, sad send off. Yeah, so we have that. We did get a new review. I don't believe we read this one. This is a review from outside the U.S. stores, so we get those every month or so bundled together. So this is one coming from all the way from Brazil, a 5-star review from Alphonse 823.
Thank you, Alphonse 823.
Thanks. You're the best. Thank you, Brazil, honestly. Alphonse says, I've been listening to this show for a while. I can say it has become one of my favorite Who podcasts. The hosts are pretty funny and do things in a dynamic way, balancing humor and
if you're wondering,
on the episode.
Dan and I only heard the word pretty, heard it sarcastically, and are now sort of half depressed about it, but thank you.
I'm going to cry my way through the rest of this. It goes on to say we do it in a dynamic way, balancing humor, commentary on the episode, trivia, and random thoughts about stuff that always manage to entertain. Thank you. Keep it up, guys. Can't wait for the second go through. Cheers from Brazil. So thank you for that. Well, speaking of that, we are it feels like we're hurtling towards the end of the classic Who, but we do have a significant amount of Sylvester McCoy to get through. So we have a full Doctor before we get to the movie with the Eighth Doctor.
Well, here's the thing: are we going to do the movie, or are we going to go through round 2 and then do the movie?
No, I can't wait any longer. I need to see the movie. I've seen clips of the movie so many times. I just need to see it. So we got to get to it, and I don't want to watch it in advance of actually reviewing it. So, for my own selfish reasons, let's get to the Eighth Doctor and then jump back through again. So that saying, if you guys go to theolddoctorwhoshow.com, you can go to the schedule page to see what we're going to be reviewing next, get links to all the previous stories that we reviewed, and also leave us comments and let us know which ones you think we should definitely cover on the second go-round. Now that we have BritBox, not a sponsor, that has all of the classic stories that are available to us, so we can really hit the first through third Doctor stories that we were sadly missing.
Yeah, and the only limitation, I believe, still is that we can't do many Dalek stories, if any, on BritBox.
Any of the ones that are available we can do, but those are not licensed properly, so we can't get those. But otherwise, when we get towards the end of, or before the movie, maybe we'll do a big special, something planned before we go back through.
I was just doing a quick count, and I think if we keep up with what we have, when we get to the movie, it'll be at the number 75 mark, so it sort of fits into a celebration.
And that'll be in the year 2024.
Maybe we'll do that as a live show, the way we did it for... Which one did we do live?
The 50th.
The 50th, yeah. So maybe it'll be a 75th, the 50th. Will be a live on YouTube thing, but we'll see.
Maybe we'll do a riff tracks for it. I don't know. We'll do something interesting. But what I was going to say is that at that point we can get your feedback on which ones to do next, and we will do a poll and we'll get you guys to vote on which ones we should hit on the second go round. So, thank you guys again for giving us all of your feedback on the stories that we should.
Yeah, and you can reach us at theolddoctorwhoshow@gmail.com if you want to send us some listener feedback, and obviously subscribe on iTunes and then leave us a review.
Remember, if you do send us feedback through the email or as a review on iTunes, we are contractually obligated to read it. So,
no matter what.
Have at it. We've done it. We've done it every time. I think that's it for us this time.
Yeah, that's good.
Anything
Until
else?
next time, which will be the Time in the Ronnie. So brand new Doctor, brand new show. So get ready.
Brand new hosts.
And then Paradise Towers. I like some of the names of the upcoming ones. Happiness Patrol. It sounds interesting.
I've seen stills from that one. I'm actually very interested to see what that's going to be like. So yeah.
Ghost Light.
it's mostly Scooby-Doo stories coming up.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. See y'all.
Bye.
Peace.
Down in London town to go. With the record selection and the mirror's reflection, I'm a dancing with myself. When there's no one else inside, in the crowded lonely night. Well, I wait so long for my love vibration, and I'm dancing with myself. Dancing with myself. Dancing with myself. There's nothing to lose and there's nothing to lose.
Where's my robot, you know?